situation. And we are also very much interested in what is going to be their stance or position. And as you know, in case of Europe, that EU anti-competition law was the main source of removing this nation clause. And unfortunately, in Asia, there is no such EU anti-competition law. In Asia, we have different countries is working in a different legal and law environment. So potentially the only, say, option for respected country in Asia may be a kind of clarification. And in the long run, Asian countries like Japan, China, Korea may create some more regional framework to discuss in concrete fact. But frankly speaking, it will take probably years. In the EU, we all know that political determination not to have a war anymore just after the World War II has started to create energy European cooperation. So political will is in the first place in case of Europe. That's why I am a great advocate for regional cooperation in Asia, but political will is a very difficult one.
Any more questions?
Okay, my name is Wanzani from I think in your presentation, your projection is that the price of oil will remain quite low over this number of years. So as far as Japan is concerned, do you think that the strategy of nuclear is still being embarked on?
Thank you for asking a very relevant question. Actually, I served as a member of the Government Advisory Committee to decide that Japan's energy mix to 2030s. And there was some advisory members asked this question. Now, oil price is very low, gas price is low, so we may need to be based on the new market reality. How we should encourage nuclear restart or how we should promote renewable. But the discussion found out, of course, that the lower price of oil for Japan is necessary for our economy. But we also need to pay attention to other very important energy policy objectives, such as energy security and environmental protection and economic efficiency. And in terms of energy security, price is of course one element. But the advisory committee member finally started to set that diversification of energy source as well as improvement of energy self-sufficiency is important. So post-Fukushima reality suggests our energy import dependence or energy self-sufficiency became very low. Now our self-sufficiency stood at 6%. 6% only. It's far below the OECD average. OECD average is, I think, that something around 40%. And other lower energy self-sufficiency countries like Korea, Spain, their sufficiency rate is around 20%. So Japan is very, very low is exceptional town because of the shutdown of nuclear power. Japan accounted for nuclear power as a quasi domestic energy source. So for this purpose, the nuclear restart or use of nuclear is important for energy security policy. And also, we may need to set up internationally recognized GHG emission target. For this, we also need a contribution from non-fossil fuel. Of course, that the lower price of fossil fuel is in a sense good thing. But as far as we continue to use fossil fuel, it's difficult to reduce GHG in a big manner. Of course, we may have some advanced technology like CCS or CCU. In that case, if we can use fossil fuel and reduce GHG, but this is not possible for the future, at least until 2030. That's our judgment. So reducing the use of fossil fuel is another target for our energy policy discussion as an issue. So that's why even the currently oil price, gas price is low, we may need to have a best energy mix, which can include some contribution from nuclear and renewable. And finally, what we discussed at the advisory committee was, yes, now we are seeing very relatively low price of oil, $30, $40, lower price. But again, we do not assume that the current price continue to be the case for the long run. Year 2020, year 2030, oil price may be not $100, but come back to more sustainable for investment terms balance that is very higher than the current price level. So all in all, we decided that the best energy policy for nuclear power, renewable and energy efficiency is essential for Japan. Does that answer your question?
Hi, Professor. My name is Azira from Institute of Engineering Malaysia. I got two questions here. Number one is, what is your forecast about the shale gas production in the US? Are they going to be increased? Secondly, your opinion about the reasons, the main reason of this economic oil and gas market slowdown is due to shale, the main reason. But don't you think that the oversupply from the oil producers, which the main reasons that this market, the slowdown of the market is happening, coincidentally, the shale is increasing the capacity. So it's just a coincidence of the shale, but the main reason was the oversupply of the oil. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much for asking questions. The first question about the prospect for shale production. I would like to recommend you to look at carefully about the latest publication made by US EIA, Energy Information Administration's early release of Annual Energy Outlook up to 2040. And EIA publishes every year annual energy outlook, and including outlook for US shale production, oil production. Until last year, their consensus view or reference outlook view is that U.S. oil shale oil production can increase up to around 2020, 21, 22, and peak out and gradually decline. This was their consensus view. Currently, the shale production can rise very quickly, but there is a peak and start to decline. This is a kind of traditional consensus. What I found this year was a kind of big change or big departure. Now, the consensus view shifted to U.S. share of oil production can continue to gradually increase in the long run. So it's a big yearly departure. I visited EIA with my friend, very dear friend, and to have a discussion on this subject. We found that the recent technological advancement and industry experience is a cause of this shift in the concept. In the last 1 year and a half, actually oil price declined, and there's a lot of problem for the shale production, shale play. But under the circumstance, the industry people made a serious effort to reduce cost and to streamline their operation. So potentially, the lower price environment has a benefit to shape up the industry structure. So I think, of course, it can have many factors, but I think there is a possibility shale oil production can not pick up and stay in a good shape, even the relatively low price environment. If that's the case, I think that it's a very important message for the global energy trend. Of course, apart from the United States, it's quite different. Many countries boast big shale oil and gas resources, including China. But the US is a unique country with numbers of big, very active and innovative oil companies with infrastructure, pipeline, so we cannot simply expect the same thing can be repeat in other countries. But in case of the United States, I think it's very interesting to see that in the last 2 years experience even to change the sentiment or expectation for the long-term growth. And your second question is about power supply. Always that there's no kind of simple answer. That's a combination of various factors. You said that there is some coincide factor. I think that's correct. In 2014, the demand is slowing down, and the non-OPEC supply U.S. shale production recorded a historical high growth. Under the circumstance, market pressure was so big, and then the decision made by Saudi Arabia is very important role. Finally, they said, "Oh, this is not a good story for us in Saudi Arabia. If we continue this policy to keep higher price around $100, their market share will be eroded." And that what exactly they did in the early 1980s. In early 1980s, Saudi decided to play a role as a swing producer to reduce their production to keep price. And actually, the price was kept at around $35 during the 5-year period. But the impact for the production is so substantial In the early 1980s, Saudi oil production was around 10 million barrels a day. But in August in 1985, the kingdom's production is lower than 3 million barrels a day. So the huge reduction of oil production from the kingdom, which means they lost market share. So they are marginalized. So this time, Saudi decided not to repeat that fate. So weak demand, very strong share production growth, and decision made by major oil producing countries, particularly Saudi Arabia, is really supply and fundamental and global demand. And also, just one other thing is the history of global oil market can be interpreted in many ways. But one of my favorite interpretation is oil market is characterized by the mechanism of adjusting oversupply. From the start of the global oil market in the late 19th century, the market always tried to find some mechanism to adjust the oversupply. The first attempt was Rockefeller Standard Charter. The second one included the Texas Railroad Commission. Third one is Seven Sisters Joint Control of Middle East Oil Resources, and then followed by OPEC and then Saudi Arabia. So in some time, the mechanism worked, and during the mechanism was built in and worked, the oil price became stable. But without this such kind of mechanism, or without some policeman to look at the market and adjust the governance, the market became very low and very affected by weak fundamentals. And now there's no policeman in the market. So I think that this is a very unique situation.
Professor, my name is Ho Sok Won from the Malaysian Gas Association. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your very interesting presentation. And as I try to reflect upon some of the developments, particularly on the power sector, I noticed there is now a big shift towards more use of coal instead of natural gas, driven primarily by economic factors in terms of cheaper gas, cheaper coal and so on. Looking back 5 years ago, I think there was a lot of emphasis on global warming. And starting from COP15 in 2008, there was a big concerted effort by different countries in trying to hammer out some commitments in terms of how we can lower the greenhouse gas emissions in the world. And leading up to, of course, all the various COPs until last year, we had COP21. And I think there was some commitment made by different countries in terms of what they would like to do to bring down the temperature to below 2 degrees based on 2005 levels. Now we see kind of like a reversal towards in some of the commitments that have been made in terms of climate change, with realities on the ground in terms of what countries are doing in relation to their efforts to introduce more coal. So the question that I would like to perhaps pose is in terms of what are the commitments, how are countries now fulfilling the commitments that we made in relation to the COP21 agreements with regards to emissions by the various countries. And in particularly in Asia, I think 5 years ago, again, when you look at the golden age of gas, it's very much driven by the demand of gas in Asia. And to the extent that there's not much work being done in terms of gas advocacy in this region, with the assumption that gas would continue to grow in Asia. So do you think that there has not been enough efforts on gas advocacy in this region to promote greater use of gas and competitiveness of gas vis-a-vis other fuels? And again, how do you see the subject of global warming being addressed for the future?
I totally agree that countries in Asia and countries in the world need to address very properly about climate change initiative and climate change challenges. And agreement at COP21, Paris Agreement, was in a sense very significant for me because the coverage of the agreement of countries is quite large. Almost 100 people joined the agreement in comparison to the limited numbers of the countries joined the Kyoto Protocol. So, as a strategic and global challenge, I think that I should call that Paris Agreement is a success. And for the coverage, as well as importantly, the mechanism for ratchet up for their commitment. Every 5 years, joining members are requested to review the commitment, INDC, and submit more stringent, hopefully more stringent reduction target should be submitted to the Secretariat. So at this moment, it simply depends on the current INDC. It's not enough at all. As every analysis indicates, it's at almost similar level to so-called BAU emission trajectory. Even the current INDC can be materialized. But given the preconditions of ratchet mechanism, the question that we need to ask is how to actually implement the current INDC and also how to further stringent the next INDC is a question mark. And I think that there is a good possibility for many emerging economies to have a more stringent INDC. In my personal understanding, this is because our IEJ made analysis for respective countries' INDC with so-called BAU trajectory. For example, in case of China and India, the INDC trajectory is higher than the BAU emission trajectory. So in terms of ambitiousness, there's a much room to become more ambitious. So we are expecting they will try to meet a more ambitious target for the next submission. But of course it depends on their many things, including political will and political decision making. So there is no kind of warranty, no optimism can be simply warranty. But I think that there is a good possibility to have a more good ambitious target can be created for every 5 years. But that means, firstly, we need to really commit the current INDC deadline. And depending on the ambitiousness again, for example, in case of Japan, it's not so easy. Our submitted target to reduce VAT by 26% as compared to the 2013 level is really ambitious and really costly for us. But we decided that target and we will provide every effort to make it. But probably the economic cost to materialize this target differs greatly by country. That's why very difficult for this kind of negotiation. Probably market design and energy industries and technology development, all these things continue to affect the materialization of GHG reduction target. And I do hope that some new technology, in particular for non-fossil fuel technology, like renewable, can progress very well, which means that the renewable energy can become more and more economically viable, including the issue addressing that intermittency. But I think it's not an easy way. Probably we will need a serious effort for promote technology and to have a reasonable public design. As I mentioned earlier, Japan is trying every effort to invite contribution from renewable. And we introduced a feed-in system July 2012, and the net result was surprisingly big inflow of solar grid. But it's cost Japanese economy a lot. Now we are expecting in next 20 years, Japanese electricity bill will increase by 3.2 yen per kilowatt hour because of the feed-in time surcharge. It's a big increase here. We need the Japanese consumer and Japanese industry may have to bear that burden. So how to promote renewable in an economically viable way is also very important, and this is in the hand of the government. The government policy is really very important to promote the non-fossil fuel and finally to contribute to reduce greenhouse emissions. Greenhouse emission can be reduced, but how economically reasonable, viable way is a very important issue. That's why every government is trying hard to negotiate with other counterparts. It's an issue, it's a like issue of trade negotiation. If we agree to make a submission of an unreasonable target, it will cost us. That's the point. Does that partly answer your question? But
the oil supply and also oil prices are to large extent determined by the non-economic or speculative factors. So that's why we see when the oil price was relatively high, above USD $100 per barrel, some government resorts to providing subsidies, okay, in order to mitigate potential impact to the consumers. But once the oil prices start to slide down, then slowly the subsidies are being withdrawn. In future, we can see that there is a possibility that the price will increase to, let's say, $60 to even $80 per barrel. Are you aware of new initiative undertaken by some economists in order to mitigate potential increase in price of oil in the future? Will they resort to providing subsidies, or are there new initiatives that should be undertaken by the government and also the major consumers of oil?
I strongly believe that for this question that you know far much better than the answer me. And I agree that in the low price environment, many governments decided to remove or reduce subsidies. And I think it's quite right. And I do hope, as an economist, they can stick to this concept, even though that the oil price may bounce back. But the bounce back, the level of bounce back is a great matter of concern. If the low price of oil, $40 to $45, $50, even $60, maybe it's okay. But clearly, if the oil price go beyond $70, $80, I think that there is a kind of temptation for the government to see that this may be a time to reconsider about the subsidy policy. But I think that from the economist point of view, I think that it's my hope is to keep this stance. And of course, that the subsidy issue is an issue for direct subsidy or the paying directly to consumer. It's quite completely different in terms of the consequence. So under the current market environment, I think that the government at least start to prepare what they should do for the next round of possible oil price hike or higher. And we all need to have a more very economical and strategic thinking about the kind of possible new development. I think that for this purpose, every kind of, say, knowledge and good understanding of the economy and social society need to be collected. So for this year to come, probably 1-2 years, I think that this is a good opportunity, again, the government people gather and prepare for the next strategy. And again, I hope that the government try to keep the current very reasonable policy as long as possible.
Any questions? Yes.
My name is Prashant from Petronas. You mentioned just now that there are several Asian countries that have started some initiatives to establish gas trading hubs. I'm just wondering that in your view, can multiple hubs coexist? And if not, what are the factors that will decide the emergence of one hub as opposed to other hubs?
Thank you very much for your question. The short answer is I think that there are good possibility to have a coexistence of the hub in Asia, because that the Asian region is so diversified in, say, in the size, and naturally we need to have several points of hub to reflect its respective fundamentals. In short, for example, Singapore can survive as a regional hub representing the supply-demand fundamental of ASEAN countries. I think that Singapore is very keen to start up fast, and probably based on their experience in oil trading hub, and also their, say, in a sense, very transparent, and they have very experience for market liquidity, and they have many, say, concentration of traders in the region. So I think that's a good advantage for Singapore. But in terms of the LNG trading, I think that the volume or the depth of the market is relatively limited, and still very far from the major LNG market like Japan, Korea, Taiwan in terms of volume. So I think that now many Southeast Asian countries, including Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, is joining as a kind of potential importers. I think it's quite possible Singapore play a kind of regional Southeast Asian hub if they are successful. And Japanese government hope is to represent, say, LNG market in Northeast Asia. And now Japan is the largest consumer. In terms of volume is enough, And as I earlier explained, we are now opening up our electricity and gas market for liberalization, so that the market structure is changing. So under the circumstance, I think at least the government is hoping that Japan becomes kind of one hub representing Northeast Asia.
Any question? Okay. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this public lecture. On behalf of the Commission, we would like to express our utmost gratitude for your time and participation, Professor Teng. For our participants, we are welcome to the lunch served in the indoor market. But before we proceed to the lunch, I would like to invite everybody to the foyer for a quick photography session. Thank you. Till we meet again next time.
Thank you.